Previously on Bollocks.
I got Matt Young from Mix, the sports presenter at Mix, next to me, and we've been talking Arsenal. We're both Arsenal fans, unlike Comfort. And
I'm not.
And Matt thinks he knows who the mole is.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frightening,
no
really.
chance.
We reckon.
I mean, this is a year-long mystery that's plagued international investigative agencies, all that kind of thing. There's more people searching for the mole than there are searching for... I nearly said Malaysian Airlines, I won't say that. It's unbelievable. I'm getting a call from the people that want to install my TV at home. We're getting a big new TV, Molly, and so I can watch Arsenal draw 2-2
With Swansea.
in Technicolor with Swansea. Thanks, Matt.
Grand.
Right,
I think
Matt
I'd
Young,
rather
you're going to ask Molly some questions. You're
Am
going
I?
to put
All
it
right.
to him as a Vara
Are you going
Zuid-Afrikaner.
to let Matt say something?
Matt, please.
Yes. As a
Ask
Vara
him.
Zuid-Afrikaner, yes.
Yes. Ask him how bad Arsenal were on this week, both games.
Well, I don't have to ask him now, do I?
No, not really. And even though we're on streaming, I don't think I'm allowed to say what I think.
Well. The PG version. Let's have that one, Molly.
The PG version.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, how bad were Arsenal? And I said that there was 11 people walking around in an Arsenal strip impersonating a player.
Yeah, well. It's exactly right. I mean, what do you think the problem is, though? Do you think it's Wenger?
I think, and it's half Wenger, half certain people on the board.
All right. And, so does this feel to you like at least sort of similar to George Graham's end of era? Does it have that sort of same feeling to you? Do you think maybe
No.
that's that?
No, too many people still think the sun shines out of his arse, and there's your biggest problem. Or there's our biggest problem. Because first and foremost, you've got an owner that couldn't give a rat's arse about a football club because it's an investment. So primarily they're running a business, they're not running a football club. You and I are just punters that pay our money every week. We're entitled to an opinion, but they're not going to listen. So until they start to hurt in the pocket, or there's very public displays of displeasure, they will carry on as is.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
I worry you might be exactly right there. Although, I mean, who do you get in? That's the next question you got to ask. If you get rid of him.
The problem there, Matt, is you've got so many idiots with their head in a plastic bucket saying, oh, look at Man United. Well, so look at Man United. So what? Does every single football club say, sorry, we can't part ways with a manager and go forward? When we got rid of Rioch, people did. Who would have thought that Wenger would have been as good as he was then?
Well, Rioch had 1 year, didn't he?
Come in and carry on.
Rioch had 1 year at the end of the George Graham era, which was reasonably successful, but not famous for its great football. What I would say, and the argument I've been having, Moley, is we all thought that David Moyes would struggle early on, but can't you see when Sven-Göran Eriksson left the England job and Steve McLaren was appointed, I went on Sky. They were desperately looking for someone that would slag off Steve McLaren, so obviously they came to me because no one else had the bollocks to do it. And I said,
Cojones.
Cajones, yeah, we're Spanish today. I said at the time that Sven-Göran Eriksson got us to 3 quarterfinals in 3 successive tournaments. I was worried that to disrupt England and bring in Stevie McLaren on the back of 2 quarterfinals for Middlesbrough was a very bad decision. And lo and behold, we didn't qualify for the next tournament at all. He was stuck there with his brolly in the rain. And I worry that we've got the same situation. Arsenal do get to the top 4 every year. They've never been out of the top 4 in the 18 years under Arsene Wenger. Yes, we've had a bit of a lean patch since 2005, but we'll win the FA Cup, not the World Cup, the FA Cup this season. We've got to because we're the only top flight club left. And maybe Wenger can... Look at the start of the season. Everyone was saying, blimey, glad we didn't sack Wenger. We're top of the league. We knew Man City had a better squad. They spent 600 million. We've spent less than 30. That's how it works.
No, but your thing is, when you look at the bank balance, top 4 isn't acceptable, Neil. Sorry. That's an excuse from... That's an excuse from the Wenger lover. We're in top. Yeah. We've been in the top 4 for the 17 years. You know what? For the first 10, great. For the first 4 or 5 where we moved to the stadium, acceptable because there were restrictions, there were problems. The bullshit from the board about, we've moved stadiums to compete with the best in the world, well, you might as well take a pinch of salt. It's crap. But the last 4 years, there's been money. No excuses. It's been there, proven. He hasn't spent it. So between him not wanting to spend it and not being pushed to spend it, you've got, it's a business. They stagnate. We're just treading water.
How
and
true?
For the money that we're paying, that's totally unacceptable.
I was going through the Golden Boot, Moley, and Diego Costa was one of the guys on the shopping list in the January transfer window. That
he's going to Chelsea.
Yeah, but was there a serious and realistic prospect of Arsene Wenger spending this huge war chest that he's got, the 100 million,
Would you
on Diego Costa?
Number one.
Sorry?
Would you trust him to spend the 150 million in the bank?
Yes, of course I would.
No.
He's made some
Would
great
you really?
signings in his time.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't? Okay, who would you go for? Which manager? First of all, which manager would you go for? And secondly, which £100 million player would you go for?
Well, there isn't 100. I don't think you need one. Our problem isn't one superstar player. Our problem, well, ain't a problem. I think we've got the basis of a really good squad, but we've still got some crap there that they need to get rid of. What we need is what we've needed for ages. We need a proper, decent centre forward that's going to bang you in regularly 25, 30 goals. We lack speed all over the pitch. There's no physicality there. We've got a bunch of midgets playing in midfield. If you're saying who's going to replace Wenger, what you should be looking at is what type of manager comes in and replaces Wenger. And I just think he's gone backwards. There are so many new managers with new ideas, fresh ideas. Tactically, they're better than him. You look at Wenger and you're getting slaughtered at Chelsea, and he's sitting there like nothing. There was no emotion. There's no passion. It's like, oh well, let's resign ourselves to the fact that we're going to get stuffed by Chelsea again.
So
I think things have passed him by.
All right,
Matt,
Molly,
to break in, you've got to be loud. Go.
Yeah, well, if we're going to move in, all right, now, who is it? So you get rid of Wenger, what do? My bet's Jurgen Klopp. I like the idea. He's young, fresh ideas, willing to spend the money, but not going to do, a Man City or a Chelsea and sort of blow hundreds of millions of pounds. Because I agree, I don't think we need to spend hundreds of millions of pounds. So my bet, Jurgen Klopp. Who would you choose?
At the moment, I would go with, I like Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
I would try and get Rijkaard out of his sort of very early retirement, because everybody goes on about Pep Guardiola being the person that got Barcelona back on track. Bullshit. It was Rijkaard. I would try and get Rijkaard.
All right, and then, so now, what do you think United? Tell me about United. Moyes, is it time for him to go? Do we think maybe they'll try and look for somebody like that?
Well, we've spoken, Neil and I have spoken about this, and yes, he inherited a shit squad, and he's being held, how can, this is what worries me about Arsenal as well. How can an ex-manager pick the next manager? I'm sorry, but they allowed Ferguson to pick the successor. That's also absolute crap. Excuse me, why have you got a board?
Yeah.
You sit down and you look at who should be coming in to take over from Ferguson. You take Fergie's recommendation, sure, but you don't just take it as, no. They're all going to get the ump, sure, because they're not winning. But they've got to look at their mirror as well. They're all old and they're all knackered and they're all finished. I feel a little bit sorry for him, to be honest. And at least he's got the humility to stand up and go, it's my fault, which Wenger doesn't.
You're right. Listen, I've got Peter Nicolaides. He's a lad, juvenile junkie, he's called in Pretoria. He knows his European football quite well. Ask Mole if Arsenal should have signed Higuain. He's got 21 in 39 games for Napoli. There was a real chance of us signing Higuain, wasn't there?
The problem there was, as usual, Wenger was faffing. So the minute that we went after Suarez, which was known, but the end of last season, Arsenal were told Suarez is for sale. There is a clause in the contract. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we know that there was a clause in the contract. Now Liverpool have even admitted to the fact that yes, there was a clause in the contract. The thing was, Arsenal couldn't push it because Liverpool can turn around and say, "Well, how do you know?" Then they'll get done for tapping him up. You know what? I'd have took the risk and got done for tapping him up, because if you'd have stuck Suarez in that side, we wouldn't be where we are now. But one sole striker, I would say no, wouldn't solve the problem, because we're still lightweight in midfield. And we've been lightweight in midfield for 4 or 5 years. It's the square peg round hole syndrome, where I think Arteta's a great player, but he's not a defensive midfielder. The thing is, he's got the footballing brain to be able to do a job. But when you look at him on Saturday, he was like a cart horse on Saturday, and people are going, "Oh, look at Arteta, he's crap, he's rubbish." No, he's not. To be fair to the bloke, he's just he's not good enough in that position up against a team that's got younger, quicker, stronger players.
Yeah,
he can't do it. You're being asked to do something. He shouldn't be doing that job. He's not a defensive midfielder. So you're making the bloke look shit to start off with. Get a proper defensive midfielder. Look at the distance our two fullbacks are running. They're doing like 11 Ks a game, which is more than half the midfielders. Because Wenger's got two fullbacks that he wants to use as two wingers. Is it not like simple to use two wingers?
No, we don't know, do we? No, you're right.
That's why they get caught out of position all the time, because they're playing left and right wing.
Right.
Why haven't we got a left and right wing? No, lack of discipline, because Wenger thinks that all those players are intelligent enough to go on the field and do their job, and they're not.
Okay. Listen, I've got another Man United tweet. Jade MUFC Craig, Jade Craig 77 on Twitter. Gary Neville and Giggs to run Man United until the end of the season, then make a wise decision. What do you think of that? Do you think Giggs could run it at Man United if Moyes leaves?
I mean, Liverpool used to promote from within.
Did, yeah.
I mean, Giggs has got the brain and the passion and the love of the club. He's got the knowledge of the club. Gary Neville comes across as a pretty sensible bloke, to be honest. I mean, I couldn't stand him in a Man United shirt, but now he's outside of the game. He's excellent. And he's sensible. He doesn't talk shit. So, from what you see of him in the England setup, he's good. He's good. Yeah, I mean that would probably save them because they'd all fight for the shirt, wouldn't they?
That would be the big thing. He'd teach them what it means to play for the Red Devils. You know, when you got Moyes in charge, not really used to it, doesn't understand the size of the club and the passion behind it. Perhaps I think Giggsy and Scholesy and those sort of guys. Yeah, perhaps Scholes. Not even Scholes, but somebody of that old school. People who've been there through Ferguson and they've fought for the badge. I think that's what United need right now.
That's the old boot room way that Liverpool used to do it, wasn't it?
Well, let's be honest, that's how they won the league last year, because that squad's basically the same, and they won the league with the same lot. Fergie got the best out of a bad bunch. So if you've got a couple of old boys coming in that just got them to graft and fight for each other, that would make a difference. They grind out those results again, which they haven't done this year.
I've got Alexander Burton asking, interested to hear what the Mole has to say about Arsenal's injury problems. What he thinks the problem is. Season by season, we have a host of players out of action week after week. Ramsey, Ozil, Diaby. Obviously, Theo Walcott's another one that I'd throw in.
Diaby? Who's that? Who's Diaby?
I didn't say Diaby.
Did you say Diaby?
It says Ramsey, Ozil, Diaby. I would say Walcott. Strike Diaby from the list.
The good news is it'll be like a new player for next season for three games.
Yeah, you're right.
Injuries at Arsenal, another huge problem. Did you read the article by that Dutch guy about 2 weeks ago saying that Arsenal's training is a problem? That it's not army camp, it's not boot camp. They're overtrained in pre-season, so they peak too early.
Yeah.
More stress on the body, more injuries. Like I say, I mean, I just think if Wenger's got to go, and the whole of that backroom staff needs to be upgraded and new faced.
Now, I have a better solution for Arsenal.
You be quiet, you 3 months old.
I think you just need to bring... I think you just need to bring back Dennis Beckham. You need somebody who can score goals. So bring back the 47-year-old Dennis Beckham.
I'll tell you what, I'd have Dennis Bergkamp over Lequiff at the moment. Big French puff, really.
Well, I mean...
He's too busy putting it about in a hotel room and he isn't putting it about in a penalty box.
What, Giroud? Yeah. But, I mean, you could look at Bergkamp in the same way as we're looking at Giggs and Scholes for Man United or Gary Neville.
Absolutely.
You could look at Bergkamp and Thierry Henry as possible boot room...
He can't fly, Neil, can he? Your biggest problem with Dennis is non-fly.
Yeah, he was on a flight with his Dutch under-21s and they crashed, wasn't he? And then Bergkamp never...
It was the World Cup in America. There was 3 aborted takeoffs, and after that he said, "No, I'm never flying again." And he didn't.
Amazing, isn't it? That would stop Bergkamp from taking a big job like that. So sad.
I think he could be an assistant, but he's never going to be able to manage. I'd love him back at Arsenal in the youth setup because that's what he always said he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And again, can you imagine somebody like that?
No, bring him back as a player, not as a coach.
Oh, shut up, you spoiler.
You need a striker,
Well, thanks,
not a
Molly.
coach.
Molly, thanks. I need comfort to stay in a good mood just for a little bit longer. Listen, mate. So, like I say, there's some trouble over the fact that you might have been unveiled by Matt Young next to me. But we won't go into that on air. We'll see if he can go any further with his investigation into who is the mole, our undercover Arsenal fan and football reporter. We may find out one day.
With an inside track.
I'm going to put a picture of him up any minute now. Okay.
Again.
I'm going to put the picture up. I'm just going to find it. And I'm
I
going
need
to
to
put it
change
up.
my shirt because it's starting to smell now. I've had it on for about 7 months.
Well, mate, moles are like that, aren't they?
There you go.
Nothing
I'm
matters.
disappearing after. Can you imagine Comfort after Saturday's result? I'm not talking to him ever again.
So you don't reckon we'll win then?
Oh, big one.
Yes, of course. Sorry,
I reckon- yeah, I
Arsenal,
reckon
Man
we'll
City,
win.
7:30 South African time. Comfort against the mole. Who's going to win?
Man City, obviously. And I'll tell you what, if we get spanked, that stadium will be toxic on Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a
imagine.
blessing in disguise.
You know, it means a lot coming from you. I really appreciate you
I
saying
wasn't
that.
talking to you.
The stadium will be toxic. And
Absolutely.
if you see a little hill appear in the middle of the Emirates Stadium on Saturday at 7:30 South African time,
I wish.
it will be the mole. Right, Molly. Thanks, mate.
Take it easy.
Cheers.
Flat up.
There we are, Molly. Mad Arsenal fan. All of us asking, obviously, what happens at Arsenal, what happens at Man United. Interesting that there's so much antipathy towards Wenger when he does continue to produce a top 4 finish for Arsenal.
I'm just going to ask you, when were you last at the Emirates?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah, it's a great stadium.
Oh, it's lovely. I was there on Henri's comeback when he
Oh,
scored
was it?
against Leeds.
When he came back and played that single game.
Yeah, in the FA Cup.
Yeah, no,
And-
sure. I mean, I used to go to Highbury a lot, and it was all concrete. It's 1920 stadium. If you stood up, you couldn't see the top of the players. If you sat down, you couldn't see the bottom of the players.
Yeah.
That's how Highbury was, and I miss Highbury, but my son is much more of an Emirates man, and it's magnificent.
Yeah.
But it has cost them. I think that's one of the reasons they can't spend money. And I stick with Wenger. I have to stick with Wenger.
No, can't
Thanks,
do that.
Matt Young, for coming in. Thanks, Maz, for recording
you,
everything.
thank you.
Thanks, Will, for shouting through the window over there whenever we got controversial. And Comfort for being a Man City fan for 7 days. 7 hours? Thanks, Comfort.
Balls.co.za. Visual Radio.